Hello, everybody. I am Nandakishore from Hyderabad. I'm an aviculturist. I've had a number of birds over the years. I've had birds like parrots, quails, finches, poultry, pigeons, emus, I don't know, possibly every possible kind of bird. And I'm a consultant for a number of zoological parks in India. I have been, I've given a lot of seminars in India and abroad, and I've been with our uh, our guest Patrick also last year. I've had the privilege of interacting with Patrick many times over the past few years. He's a doctor, a veterinary doctor, and I would rather like it if he introduced himself because that would make more justice. So, Patrick, can you please
Yes,
introduce yourself?
thank you, Nanda. So I'm Dr. Patrick Ghysels. I'm a veterinarian already for more than 30 years. I work as an advisor of a Versele-Laga, a big bird food company in Europe, let's say the biggest of Europe, and one of the biggest of the world. I'm giving advice to breeders, to zoos, to bird parks on nutrition of birds, on keeping birds, on breeding birds. I'm breeder myself of parrots, and in my whole life, I can't remember a day that I didn't kept birds at my home already from a kid, from 5, 6 years old. I had some birds. So in this more than 50 years, I have, I think, nearly had every type. I will not say every species of bird, but nearly every type of birds, going from canaries, tropical finches, parrots, big parakeets. Now I'm breeding European insectivorous birds and parrots for. That's the thing that I'm doing now. But I have experience with, let's say, all species.
So that's nice to hear, Patrick. And guys, I've been to his place. He's got a beautiful walk-in aviary and a number of other parrots, which are really nice. I mean, which everybody would like to keep. And so, without delaying further, let's get into the topic. And so, if you're watching this webinar, I am sure you are a pet lover. You would have had maybe dogs or cats and things like that. So, bird keeping is not yet very popular in India, maybe because of the lack of expertise or the knowledge to keep them. So here today we want to kind of discuss on the topic and try to teach you on. I mean, to kind of throw some light on the topic of bird keeping. So, Patrick, how would you want to describe this hobby? I mean, they're pet birds. They're birds which get onto the hand, like parakeets, and a few finches which you keep in cages. So, can you put in your own words how you would look at this hobby, different kinds of birds, and how you would keep them?
Yeah. First of all, you have to be a good bird keeper. You have to be a bird lover. I myself also, I'm not only bird keeper, I'm bird lover. I go to look to the birds in nature everywhere where I come in the world. Even if it is for business, I look to find some hours to see local birds, and that's in fact the main thing to be a good bird keeper. That your whole time has to be taken by birds. You have to thinking bird, and that's what I'm doing. For the moment, I have only birds in aviaries to breed them, but depending on the time, from time to time, I had also birds in the house when the children were younger. We had some tame parrots, tame parakeets that they have hand reared themselves, so that also they get used to be friend of birds. That's very important. You don't have to see we see a lot of people, mainly in more expensive parrots, and so that they use the parrot as a kind of status symbol. But that's not the real good way to keep a bird. You have to love a bird, to love animals, and then you will be a good bird keeper. Hmm?
Yeah. And so in India, by and large, we talk about when we talk about bird keeping, people presume it's either macaws or cockatoos, and the ones that get onto the hand, and you play with them and things like that. So, uh, what, in your opinion, is a good bird to keep, and or is it better to have birds like finches where you keep them in smaller cages and things like that?
Yeah, that depends from what you expect from them. We have in Europe very big bird breeders who don't have any feeling to have tame birds. They love their birds, but they are in aviaries. In any case, also to have tame birds, you need breeders. The birds have to come from somewhere. So you can nearly hand rear every bird. And I remember when my kids were younger, they had some lovebirds, some budgie, and all those things that they've hand reared. And for those, for that can be the same good pet bird as a big macaw or a big parrot. It's not because it is a big bird that is a better pet bird. And
Yeah.
from time to time, the people even that buy those big birds are sometimes disappointed because they think every parrot is speaking and interacting, but that's not so. That depends on the character of the bird.
Yeah. So, one thing that I would like to talk about is, I mean, in my experience, a lot of people would like to have macaws and greys and cockatoos and things like that. But then, keeping in mind Indian, I mean, people being busy and stuff like that, people running around doing their job, most people don't get the time to spend time and keep their bird, kind of active, and so I generally try to tell people who have who ask for pet birds to have smaller birds because they're easier to maintain, like budgies or cockatiels or finches or
Yeah, that's correct. If you don't have that much time, it's better to have the
one of
smaller birds.
those smaller ones.
Yeah. And let's say
Yeah, and
certainly the African greys are very smart and so, and then if you don't give them the attention that they expect from you, it can turn wrong. That we know all, and that's a problem that you will have not so much with the smaller birds.
yes. Also, another thing is here I would like to talk about the legal aspect of keeping birds. Uh, I mean, Patrick, I'm sure you're not. I mean, I'm presuming that you're not aware of the laws that are there in India. Uh,
No.
so, yeah. So the Indian law states that any bird or animal which is found in India or which is migratory in nature, whatever was, I mean, if it migrates from another country also into the subcontinent, it is protected under the Wildlife Protection Act. It is considered a property of the government. So if you keep a ringneck or if you keep a myna or a peacock in an enclosure, it accounts to theft of government property. So anything that's exotic, anything that's not found in India, can be kept as pets, like a macaw, like a cockatoo, like a finch, like a anything like a pheasant, which is not found in India, and things like golden pheasant or silver pheasant, so on and so forth. However, now India has there's a portal on which you can declare the pets that you have, the birds that you have. So the government of India wants you to. It's a voluntary disclosure scheme sort of thing, where you declare every pet that you have. So it be a bird, say it be an animal, a reptile, or a amphibian. So Just by doing so, there's a legalization to the trade, to the hobby, so that the government knows what kind of pets are already available in India. Because there were a lot of pets which were imported, there were a lot of pets which were not accounted for. So now, the government of India wants to account every exotic animal that's there in the country, and so anybody who has anything other than a dog and cat can actually go uh, to a website called Pravesh, and then you can declare your pets. So if you have birds or reptiles like snakes or iguanas or anything like that, please go ahead and register. And so Patrick, so this is one thing that I wanted to talk to the Indian clientele. I mean, people who are watching the webinar, I thought that could be of some assistance to them.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. We have about same things here in Europe, but it's we are much smaller countries than India, and every country has its own rules. I cannot say what are the exact rules for all our European countries. It depends from country to country, and from animal to animal. Some countries puts a lot of pressure on birds, other on mammals, other on reptiles, and make it more complicated to have them, or made it more easy to have other species. That's very different from country to country. But in the I let's say in general in Europe we can have all birds if we can prove from where they come. So that means
right.
if they are close
Banded.
ringed, close banded, you can have them. It's already, I think, from 2003, 2004 that no more import is allowed of birds in the European community. So in fact, import birds we don't know no more. It's all captive bird, captive bred birds that we have.
Yes. Um, so good. So yeah, I think sooner or later we're going to head the same way, but this is the first step for us, where we're talking about first declaring the birds that are there, and eventually luckily we I think we still have import, or they're going to open import, so we still have access to birds getting into the country.
Mhm.
So would you? So another thing is, could you talk about keeping small birds in smaller cages, where people who don't have, say, space to have a big bird in a very large cage, or who don't have the time to spend with a single big pet bird? Could you talk about some small keeping small birds in smaller cages and having it as a pet,
Yeah,
having them?
okay. Um, Keeping smaller birds, people is always thinking a bird need a big cage to be happy. But you may not forget, and certainly we in Europe, when we work only with captive bred birds, those birds have been bred in small cages. What is a small cage? A cage of about uh, 40, 50 centimeter, 30 centimeter, 30 centimeter high or so. eh? Let's say a quarter cubic meter. Those birds are used to live in such a cage. They have never known the wild, the big space. So it is a misunderstanding to think that every bird like to have those big cages. If they have been bred in the small cages, it's no problem to have them. They are adapt to that, and even they will be unhappy when they come in a big aviary because they are not used, and there are so many things that are look dangerous for them. So uh, they probably will not be happy in that big aviary. So don't be thinking in your mind the big space. No, a small space is okay, but you need a space that is adapted for the bird. When I speak about cage of 50 centimeter, I speak about Bengalis, canary, budgie, or even a lovebird, that size of birds. When you go to, let's say, a cockatiel, you have to go to bigger cages and a little bit higher cages. The the legislation here in Europe is that the bird had at least need the space twice when he spreads his wings.
Wings.
2 times that distance had to be the minimal size in every direction of the cage.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
but that's minimum. It's better a little bit more, but it will not say that it has to be too big. So
Yeah.
there are a lot of opportunities for people having less space.
Yes. So rather than having a big tame bird, it's better to have smaller birds. I mean, the
Yeah,
people who can't give the time and the space for a big bird, because they also tend to destroy your furniture, your laptops, your phones, and
yeah.
trust me, your wife is not going to be a happy person when the furniture is bitten, when it's destroyed. So keeping smaller birds in smaller spaces is much more. At least to start off in the hobby, for people who want to start the hobby, it's always better to start with smaller birds.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so then, Patrick, can you talk about the diet? Because a lot of people are not aware of the diet. And, I've seen a majority of the people who start keeping birds just feed their birds sunflower seed, or, or some millets, or most times a lot of food that they eat, like cakes and biscuits and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
can you talk on the diet aspect of it?
Yeah. For the diet, it's clear. A bird needs bird food. A bird don't need to eat chocolate and biscuits and all those things. But a lot of things depends also on the type of bird that you keep. You have insectivorous birds. These are not the most easy to keep, although certainly in Asian area, they are very, let's say, common in cage birds, because most of them, in any case, the males are singing very well. To have a good singing bird, we have not that much of them. They are not also not so easy to keep. So it's better to start with a seed-eating bird, a budgie, Bengalis, all that kind of finches, a canary, and they are much easier to feed because they eat basically seeds, a good mixture of seeds. So also I sometimes in India. I saw the offer of good mixtures is not so big in India. A lot of local seeds are sold as single seeds, and that's it. Certainly, even for seed-eating birds, 1, 2 seeds are not enough. Also, in nature, they eat some fruits, some insects, and so you have to try to mimic that in your feeding system, and you have to add some biscuits and some soft food, some vitamins, and so to keep them healthy. That's sure.
Yeah. Okay. And so another question that a lot of people ask is it is it okay to have one pet bird, or can I have multiple pet birds? And if I have multiple pet birds, will it be a problem? Will the birds interact between themselves and
Yeah.
stop being friendly
Uh,
too?
yeah, that depends a little bit on the type of birds. For example, if you have the smaller birds, one budgie, one lovebird can be a very good tame pet bird. From the moment you keep them together with another one, they will interact between each other, and they will lose their interest in the humans, let's say. Because why is a pet bird interacting with you, with his owner? Because he want to have a family band with you. He consider you as his partner. That's a good pet bird interaction that you have. From the moment that he had the chance to have a partner of his species, he will choose the partner of his species.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I know a lot of people who having 2, 3, 4 pet parrots, parakeets. If they are from different species and they are kept separately in cages, they will not interact as a couple, and then they can stay pet birds. But be aware, we see from time to time, that bird is so many time alone. We put him a friend, and then the pet bird is gone. It's no more a pet bird; it becomes a breeding couple.
Yeah. And another thing is, do birds have sexual needs? So if I just have one bird, so that's a question that's very commonly asked from pet owners. So can I just, if I mean, is it cruel to have just one bird and not a pair?
Yeah, it's I if they if they are hand reared or reared from the first ages by a person, I don't think they need really a partner. On the other side, I have now last week's the experience. I have hand reared some finches that were abandoned by their parents, and I was thinking I will having good tame birds, but the fact that they were four together in the cage from the moment that they didn't need me no more to feed them by hand, it was finished. The friendship, they were became friends between each other, and they didn't see me no more.
Yeah. You're the painful parent then.
Yeah.
So then, how does so now is there? I mean, if you were keeping a pet bird, would you prefer? I mean, do you have a preference between a male and a female? If I'm a first time pet owner, and you know, if I had to choose between a male and a female macaw, or a cockatoo,
I
which would it be?
think, I think in macaws it's not so important. It's not so important. I don't feel there is many difference, but there are species like the eclectus parrot where there is a big difference. The female, once she is coming at the age of 3-4 years, when she become, let's say, sexual active, is a very bad pet. Becomes a very bad pet at that moment. So. For example, a female eclectus is not a good pet bird on a long time.
Okay.
Mostly, also in smaller birds, mostly the male birds are the better pets.
Okay. Okay. So, I was told, I do not know, but then in case if you have a bird which is trying to mate you on the shoulder or on your hand, uh, it is better to discourage the bird from doing so. Is that true?
Yeah, no, I don't think so, because that's a sign of a full affection of the bird to you.
No.
When he try to mate with you on your shoulder, that means that he accepts you as his partner, and that will in fact make the close band between you and your bird.
True. So then a lot of people in India, when they have their birds, keep them indoors because of it's basically out of love and affection for their birds. It's not so and also a certain amount of lack of understanding on the requirement of the bird. So could you and even breeders I've seen would say we get indirect sunlight for an hour or two, or direct sunlight for about half an hour or 1 hour. So can you please elaborate on how important is sunlight for a bird?
Uh,
And
sunlight is sunlight is
yeah,
very
please.
important for a bird, because the UV uh, in the sunlight is important to activate. And now we come a little bit technical and complicated, but it's necessary to activate the vitamin D to have a good calcium resorption. So that's that's important for birds, that they have some sunlight, direct sunlight. Pay attention that do not mean that you have to put in your bird in the full sunlight, certainly not in your climate, because that will not feel so comfortable even for them.
Yeah. So you would say about an hour or two of direct or indirect sunlight on the bird is a better thing,
Yeah. But
even for your
it's
pet
good.
bird.
It's good. When it's in summer, our summers, 24,
Yeah,
20, 23, 24 Celsius, eh?
yeah,
And when it's good weather, not raining, the people can put their birds some hours outside in the day. The bird will love it, and pay attention that your cage is well secured. If he escape
yeah.
outside, we see every day on Facebook parrots that have escaped because the
Yes,
cage is not really secured, and when they are then outside, they are a little bit more active and a little bit more,
yeah.
and then they can open the door and they are go away.
I know.
Pay attention with that.
Yeah. So, would you also suggest that when you have a bird that can fly, and because birds, unlike pigeons, can't get back, like parrots can't get back, or
Yeah,
would you? I mean, we generally tend to trim the feathers a little bit so that it can
yeah,
fly a short distance, but not very far off.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
and
That's certainly a good idea. If you take the bird out of the cage, it's to clip a little bit the feathers, to cut a little bit the feathers of the wings, not the whole wing. Some feathers you leave the 2, 3 feathers on the
yeah,
outside, then you cut 5, 6, and you leave the rest, so that they can still flying, but they cannot
yeah,
take really the high. And so when they escape, you can run behind them, and
yes,
you can take
get them
them
back
back,
home.
because
Yes,
get them back home, because even the best bird, and the most tame bird, when he can fly, can fully fly, there can happen something that he is afraid of about something, or that something falls down, and he
yeah,
or the door, a door or a window that is never going open, suddenly still
yeah,
opens, and he escapes, and then it's too late. It's and pay
true.
attention. Do it not in the old-fashioned way. The old-fashioned way with pheasants and so was to cut one side of the wing, or with ducks, to cut one side, and then
Yeah,
when they try to fly, they
mm,
fall
true.
and turn
Yeah,
around, and then
sideways. Yeah,
they fall on their head, their back, and it's really painful for them. If they can
yeah,
fly
yeah.
and they cannot take high, they come easily back on the
Gently down. Yeah,
gently down, and then
yes,
it's better for them. And pay
exactly,
attention.
exactly.
You have the molting of the birds. In summer, at the
True.
end of the summer, the birds are changing their feathers. So if you cut the feathers, also this feathers
Yeah,
will change. Pay
yes,
attention that you have to redo it every year, in
yes,
period of molting.
yes. So I would suggest that pet owners go to the doctor and then to the vet and then get the trimming of the feathers done, because he would have a better understanding of what's a blood feather and what is not, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. It's something that pay attention. An experienced bird keeper can do it himself, but you
Yeah.
have to see the difference between a fully grown feather and a feather that's still growing. If you cut a feather that's still growing, it will start to blood,
Yeah.
and that's not what we want.
Exactly.
That's the knowledge that you have, but in fact, it is not a surgical thing, so you can do it yourself, but you need some experience.
Yes. Now that we spoke about molting and the diet, Could you also elaborate a little bit on things like supplements and vitamin supplementation and no
Yeah.
various
That's
supplements that are
very
to be given
important.
to?
That that's very important for pet birds because we know it. They are fed nearly with seeds. So in any case, one twice a week they need a good vitamin and mineral supplement. eh. Vitamins, pay attention. Use a supplement specially for birds because the vitamin needs of a bird are not the same of a human, of a dog, of a cat. So don't use products of humans. Or in the past, a lot of people were using vitamin supplements for babies or so. But uh, we humans are mammals, and we have totally other vitamin needs than birds. First thing, and then on the level on minerals, the most important mineral for a bird is calcium, uh, and that's quite easy to supplement them. You have a lot of calcium preparates on grit and based on oyster shell, seashell, and so. And also in your country, you have something that's very good and a very easy, accessible
Cheap
supplement
and
for
yeah.
calcium for birds, and cheap.
Yes.
It's local, so it's cheap. Are
Yeah.
the cuttlefish bones?
Bone. Yeah.
That you, cuttlefish bone that you collect on the beach. Eh? You dry them and you
Yeah.
can give it to the birds. You wash them, you dry them, give it to the birds. It's a very good source
And
of calcium. But very important, once a week at least, also a good vitamin supplement. Eh? You can give it in the drinking water, or when they are used to eat some fruits. You can sprinkle it a little bit on the fruits. eh, Even more easy to be sure that they take it than in the water, because most vitamins the taste is not so tasteful. So when you put it in the water, the bird will drink less, a little bit less, and better to
right.
sprinkle it on fruits or so that they love to eat. Hmm?
Yeah. And the
That's
grit, can
supplementing.
you talk about the grit? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Seed eating birds need grit. In fact, these are very small stones, pebbles, that they have to eat. And that will help when they stay in their stomach, that will help to digest the seeds, because the seeds, the bird don't don't break the seeds when he is eating it. They take the whole seeds inside. And in fact, those whole seeds are not digestible for the birds. They have to be broken, and that they do in their stomach because the seeds are mixed with the gritstones, and the gritstones will break the seeds so that they become digestible for the birds.
so would you recommend mixing grit in the seed itself, or do you give it separate?
Uh, you can do it, but mostly we give it separately because you don't need to refresh it that much as you have to give every day, every 2 3 days, new, fresh seeds. Eh? Grit can stay a lot longer. The quantities a bird take are not that big, that they have to be a big part in the daily diet. They have to be available, but at, let's say, at free choice of the bird.
Absolutely. I have a question here from Dinkar Pratap Singh. He says, what would be a good bird to have in a typical climate like London, which would not require artificial heating and can be kept outdoors and indoors, but without heating? So, what
Yeah,
would your
without,
answer be?
yeah. Um, Budgies, lovebirds, cockatiels, even African greys, and so we keep them all outside. eh. Only in we have the same climate here in Belgium like London, let's say.
Yeah,
eh. So you can keep them all outside, but they have to be adapted. The bird that has been bred in your climate in India and you bring it to here, it will not be so happy. But
Right.
I have my macaws, I have my Amazons, African greys going outside in winter when there is snow.
Yeah.
They are they are bred here. That's a normal climate for them. So in fact, if they are
Exactly.
bred in that climate, they can support. Pay attention. They go outside in winter. Also in my walkthrough aviary, they are outside, but you have to give them the chance also to go out of the snow, out of the wind, out of the rain. They need some protection where they can go. It's a more ambient temperature,
Yeah.
but it has not to be heated.
Yes.
Hmm?
I've generally noticed European aviaries have an outdoor aviary and a small room like thing, which is an indoor aviary. It has
Yeah,
little
yeah, yeah,
glass window through which they fly in. And the
yeah,
reason for the glass window, I presume, is because it lets the infrared rays come in and not escape. So the room is naturally warm. Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
I've generally,
uh, we mostly a lot of breeders and so they have the aviary that like you described, and the birds are used to go inside to going to eat, to going to sleep because it is a dry place. We are feeding them in that inside place. Uh, for example, I put some artificial light, so it's always 1 2 hours longer daylight inside, so the bird tend to go inside to go to sleep, and they
yeah,
are better protected. And we mostly we do that in that way.
true. There's another question from Kiran Ved. He says, I have an African grey. She keeps walking at the bottom of the aviary, cutting up the newspapers. And he puts a question mark. So I'm guessing that is it safe or is it unsafe for them to chew on the newspaper?
They can nibble on the newspaper. Mostly they will not eat it because the ink can be a little bit poisonous, but mostly they don't eat the paper. They throw only in pieces to to have the time filled up. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw even in Florida when I was with Tony Silva visiting a pet shop. Those guy was a little bit a strange guy. He said, "Yeah, I don't buy all that. I have so many parrots. I cannot afford to buy all that expensive toys
Toys.
because also the birds are staying here probably only for a few days or few weeks, and then I have to change when it is another bird." And he was using the phone manuals, the former,
Ah,
the very thick phone manuals, and he was drawing. He
few
was putting
papers
that
from
in
it.
the cage, and he said that's the best thing. It keep them busy for the whole day.
Yeah,
So it cost nothing, and it gave them a lot of work. I don't think it
enrichment.
is a yeah a lot of enrichment. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think it is a big problem if they do that.
But in India, I think,
Only probably your wife will not be happy when all the paper pieces will go out the
keep
cage.
flying around the house. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think in
yeah,
India, it's actually easier to just give them a few neem branches or,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
some tree
Okay, okay,
branches
okay,
to
okay,
chew
okay.
on. Yeah. So
I will
I
not.
have,
It's only something that I explained that I have seen. I will not
so
advise that to give
I understand.
the phone manuals.
I understand. There's Sushmita Das. She says, I have a handicapped crow, like a raven, a crow,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
who has been losing feathers, breaking actually. What supplements would you suggest her for the feathers and bones? Is what she asks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The most important supplement for good feather growing is our sulfurous amino acids. Methionine, lysine are very important, and these are amino acids that are not present in seeds, and so they are from animal origin. So you need to supplement with a lot of a special supplement for feather growing. We have such a product from Oro Pharma Mutavit, especially supplemented with those sulfurous amino acids. And also the vitamin biotin is very important at that stage. So I would suggest to give to that crow and to every bird in the molting time, certainly a vitamin supplement and amino acid supplement of that type.
So Mutavit is the commercial name
Is the commercial name for a multivitamin that we
multivitamin
are
producing at
multivitamin
Versele-Laga.
that we
And
are producing. Yeah.
yes, so Sushmita Das, if you want, you can get in touch with Mr. Kishore. His number is 838 00 28800. He's the marketing head for Versele-Laga in India. He can help you out. Yeah. So we have another question here, which says, uh, "Are crows as intelligent as they are supposed to be, and could they be pets? Is it illegal? Is it ethical?" So I guess I should answer that because I coming from
But
India.
first of all, crows
Yeah.
can be very, very good pets and are very smart. Here in Europe, we have a lot of people who have some birds of the crow family that they hand rear, and they can be pets for years. They are very
Yes.
smart. But what is legal and not legal, that's up to you to say what you can do in India.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's illegal because they are found in India. I know it is, it would have been nice if we could have birds from India. We have some fantastic birds like the Himalayan monals and the peacocks and stuff like that. But it's a pity we can't keep them. They're protected under Wildlife Protection Act. So for people who didn't who joined after I spoke about the legal aspect, please understand that any bird or animal which is found in India or which is migratory in nature is protected under the law. It is considered uh, the property of government. And in case uh, if you have any animal or bird which is uh, found in India, it's a crime. It's considered theft of government property. So yeah. Uh, the next question again is, uh, I think you can answer that. What is the minimum space requirement for an African grey? I'm presuming
Yeah,
it's a tame African grey.
a tame African grey, you can keep him in cages about, yeah, 70 70 centimeter minimal in every size. A little bit high because they tend to climb 1 meter high or so. But preferably, if you put the cage on that high, or the cage has to be that high that the bird is at least at your face level, eh? Because it's very uncomfortable for a parrot to be, or even for every bird to be under your face level, because that give him the idea, like in the wild, that a predator is coming from above up to him and he has no chance to escape. So
Yeah.
that's a very, very important for every bird. Try to keep him on about eye level.
Yes. Oh, good. So then there is a question which says where Sharat Sharma is asking, how much importance do you give to the size and texture of the perch in a cage or aviary?
Yeah. Let's say in an aviary you try to have as many different perches as you can put. In a cage, you have a limited numbers, two, three, four perches, depending a little bit the size of the cage and type of the bird. But it's very important to have them in different sizes, eh? So that the bird, in fact, can choose which size of perch is the most comfortable for his feet. And therefore, will always suggest, even in the beautiful metal cages, what we name the big American cages. Even there, not to use the very uniform
Uniform.
perch like the like from a brush or so.
Yeah.
Use a natural perch so that the bird can have can choose how he put his grip. And a good perch uh, on a good perch, I will try to show it on the camera. The bird feet will the tooth may not touch each other. When they
Okay.
touch each other, they are too small. You need bigger one that the bird can have good grip. And therefore, in fact, the most interesting is to give them some different natural perches so that they can choose themselves.
Yes. I have another question, which a lot of people would ask. So they'd have cats and dogs, and they'd ask me, "Can I still have a pet bird, and how safe is it?"
Um, that depends on your cat and your dog, and if it is a pit bull like yours and he don't behave very well, it can be dangerous. If, but there are people that having birds and cat together. There are some cats who are used to that, that don't have any reaction on the birds. There are some cats that try to catch everything, so that's a little bit different. Also for the birds, there are birds that are not at all
Scared.
aware of the presence of a cat or a dog, and there are birds that are very shy of them. And I had once a yellow head cockatoo.
Amazon. Okay.
No, a cockatoo, a
Sulfur crested
yellow,
cockatoo.
a
Sulfur
sulfur
crested.
crested, yeah, a sulfur crested cockatoo, and he was so dominant. And I had at that time 3, 4 Jack Russell terriers, and the Jack Russell, I was shouting on the terriers that they have to lay down in their. They have a special seat for them, and that they had to lay down in the seat. And the cockatoo was so smart. After a certain time, from the moment that the dog was coming out of the seat, he was starting to cry to the dogs, just till the moment that they were going back to their seat. So that at a certain moment, the dogs get crazy about that bird, and I have to separate from the cockatoo because yeah, a bird can be dominant over a dog or a cat. It depends on the character of the
True.
bird and the dog and
Yes.
the cat.
I would add to this. I would like to say that see, try and understand that there's a balance between a prey and a predator. Though individually
Yeah,
they might differ. Cats are predominantly predators, and birds are prey animals, which where the cat tends to eat them. So instinct will push them, but then it depends on the brought up of the animal. Uh, like I had an African Grey, and I have a Rottweiler and a couple of I have 4 dogs, and the Grey would actually boss over them. But I've also known cases where somebody bought a really nice bird and really nice cat, and then the cat next day the bird is missing. They just have a few
yeah,
feathers
yeah,
here and there. So it all depends on individual to individual, but
yeah,
uh, it's the owner's call when it comes to.
yeah.
And if there are any more questions, I don't know. I'm not getting a lot of questions. One question is how often should the cage bird be sprayed or bathed? And how often do you give it a bath?
Yeah. I I mostly you can say you can give a bath nearly every day to a bird if he's bathing himself. So he will decide himself if he feel it good or not to go into the bath. If you
Yeah.
spray it, it's a little bit different. Then you force the bird to be wet, and not every bird like it that much. If you see the bird like it, you can do it also every day. If you see the bird don't really like it, don't force him to do it every day. If you spray it once or twice a day, it's more than enough to keep his feathers clean, and then he will polish themselves, and so he will do it. He will clean him himself, but don't force too much if you have the feeling that he tried to escape when you are there with the spray to spray him.
Perfect. So you would suggest have a big bowl of water so that the birds can get into the water and bathe by themselves as and when they want.
But mostly all citizen birds, parrots, parakeets, don't bat too much from their own. They prefer to be in the rain.
Yeah,
that's totally else with finches. Finches go very easily and about themselves.
Yes. So for cetaceans like parrots and parakeets, if you could have a little shower on top of the aviary, and then you just turn it on every now and then. If the bird wants to have a bath, then they might get in. Or if they don't want, they can just go inside. Yeah, they can go away from the shower.
I know breeders, I think also Loro Park had it, a system of sprinklers like they have in plant nurseries or so. System of sprinklers, and then the bird can decide if he goes under the water of the sprinkler or not. And that gives, certainly for parrots, I use for my inside aviaries, I use that type of sprinkler, like you put insecticide or pesticides in the garden.
A sprayer.
A sprayer, a kind of sprayer, a big sprayer, a pump. And I spray it over the aviary. And the birds, if they want to come, they come. Certainly the Amazons are very happy with that. Immediately come the water. For example, the African greys don't like that much, and then I don't force them. But pay attention, if you use such a sprayer, don't use the sprayer where you have that you have used to spray insecticide or pesticide in your garden. Use a clean one that you only use for that.
Dedicate one for the birds. There's one more question where Puoma Jo is asking, where she's like, can I feed her? I mean, she wants to feed her quacker parrot or monk parakeet some fresh chili peppers. So is it safe? That's a question.
I think I have her to ask. With chili pepper, they mean the very sharp one and the very hot one, probably. Not the capsicum,
No. The regular chilies.
The hot chili.
The hot chilies.
For you in India, it's regular. For us, it's hot.
I know.
What for you is regular is hot for us. You can use it. I know a lot of people are a little bit afraid of them because they think it's very hot and strong for the bird. But the birds have much like less papilles in their beak, and they don't feel that in the same way like we are feeling that it is hot or not hot. So I know birds, we have also in some mixtures, we have some dried chilies. And I see we have from time to time people complaining about that. It's too hot for a bird. It's not normal. But I see in my birds, some of them, it's the first thing that they take. Some of them don't take it. So it depends from bird to bird. But in any case, chili and capsicum is a very good certainly fresh, it's very good because it is a source of vitamins. And also the capsaicin that's inside had some kind of antibiotic working. So it helps a little bit. It's not a treatment, but it's something prophylactic a little bit that will reduce a little bit diseases and so. So it's not bad to give them, but you have to feed other things also.
So they don't have the taste buds to taste the chili. So you can definitely give chilies, and they're actually good for the bird, but that shouldn't become your primary feed source.
Voila. So, it's a supplement also.
Yes. Then This is another question by Swapna Moore, and she is asking, uh, should we? It is said we should give very less of seed and more of vegetables and fruits, whereas birds enjoy bird seeds more. Please guide.
Okay. Uh, in fact, that's right. Certainly, when you have pet birds like Amazons or African greys, certainly eclectus, they are from nature not really seed eaters. They're eating a lot of fruits and fresh nuts and so. So it's of course very important that they eat also a good quantity of vegetables and fruits near to the seeds. But we know once they are used, for example, to eat a lot of sunflower of peanuts, certainly African greys and so macaws, they tend to prefer that. And but you may not follow them in that attitude, because that's the reason that they can have a lot of diseases. Hmm? It's just like a child. Uh, I don't know what the Indian childs prefer, but when we in Europe to a child, you give them the choice between some sweet chocolates and
Yeah.
some healthy salad. They will always choose the chocolates, and a bird
Yeah.
behave in the same way. It is not because the bird prefer the seeds that they are the best or the most necessary thing for them. They are
Yeah.
a part of their diet, but they have to eat
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. So generally, what happens in India is they have a big mix of seed, but then they give them large quantities of the seed. So what happens is the birds tend to eat the sunflower seed because it's the tastiest of them all, but it's not the
Hmm.
healthiest.
It's not
So
the healthiest, too fat, and
healthy, yeah. So people think that because it's eating only sunflower seed, they tend to give only sunflower seed. So that's not healthy. Please understand, it's like you feeding somebody just biryani, all through. They get fat and then they'll die of heart attack. So don't do that to
yeah,
your bird. No, it's
yeah, yeah,
unfortunate. Most cases I think all over the world, and India being no exception, we have a lot of people who love their birds, and it is their love that kills them. So, uh, because we're already 78, sorry, 58 minutes into the webinar. I just have another 2 minutes to call it a day. I would like to end the session by telling that please get in touch with people who have the knowledge on birds. The number of people on Facebook, and they would be happy to help you because in most cases, what I've noticed is that people kill their birds out of love. It's not out of hate. Like how somebody once told me that there are no bad people in the world. It's a good people who cause a lot of damage. So please be responsible when you have a bird. Try and understand that you are the bird's god. You give it food, it will survive. You give it water, it will survive. You don't do that, it will die. So please feel free to contact anybody on Facebook, or if you can get some numbers, I'll definitely pass on my phone number to all of you. You can get in touch with me if you have any queries, because there are few questions here which I can't take because of lack of time. My number is 988 5 222 974. I'll repeat it again: 988 5 222 974. My name is Nandakishore, and Patrick, it was lovely having you. It's always nice to
yeah.
talk to you, and you've been a dear friend to a lot of bird people here. Uh, with a lot of birds have been benefited, uh, because of your seminars here. I thank you again for coming and being a guest in our show, and I thank everybody who've been here in listening to the webinar. Uh, I I'm I thank you from all my heart. Thank you so much, and bye
Also,
bye.
thank you. Also, thank you for my part, Nanda, for hosting that session. It was a pleasure to see you again, and I hope we will meet in the coming months of years once live to have again
Yes.
some good time together.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Looking forward to
Bye.
it. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye. Take care. Bye.